Penultimate round of the season. That's what's in store for us tonight on our 39th edition of Tuesday Night Motorsport on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting in 2021. Our last race night Tuesday Night Motorsport for the season. More on that a little bit later on because we are back next Tuesday, but not in race trim. We begin the journey to Mount Panorama by leaving the United States, landing in the United Kingdom, and at the Donnington Park Circuit and the Donnington National configuration. Yes, the sprint circuit, essentially, the short shoot. And, of course, a sprint round here over 51 laps for the final hit out before the big one on the mountain. Good evening, everybody. Zach Caven and Matt Davis with you. Welcome to Tuesday Night Motorsport on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting across Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, etc. and so forth. You know the drill. We're here all year round, and we have been since the second Tuesday night in February, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a big year. We're on the home stretch, and as far as this championship is concerned, it is well and truly alive after a captivating round, albeit a controversial round at Summit Point last week. And we're looking forward to seeing what Donnington has in store for us. Matt Davis, welcome to you. Fair to say, Donnington's a completely different circuit to Summit Point. This one, about the same in terms of the track length, hence why we're doing 51 laps for the second week in a row. But a little bit more faster, a little bit more flowing, and a lot more runoff area to play with. So if we're lucky, we could go caution-free tonight, which will make for a real quick race.
Yeah, good evening to you, Zach Cabin, JP, everybody watching at home and joining in for the 10th round of the season. It's only 11 round season.
Did you up? No.
No, you might have stitched me up actually, but no, the 11th race, should I say, in the 12th, the 10th round. Please, Jesus, I'm all over the shot tonight. But Donnington out of the United States at last, that came in over to the UK before we pack the cars up and head down under for the last round of the season for 2021, and an 8-hour broadcast coming to you in next week, ladies and gentlemen, on the 12th of December. And don't forget the entree and the main meal before that as well. Bathurst is only the dessert, the main event on Sunday. But minute 4 around here, very similar to Summit Point. It's a tricky one though, Donnington. It's the not the GP layout, it's the national layout. So we're eliminating the Melbourne hairpin and the and turn 12 there, going through the S's and making that a 10-corner circuit as well as that came in. The championship heating up as always on the back of what you said was a controversial round, and controversial it was. We saw a change for the championship lead, and that's going to be pivotal for Rehan Leonage tonight to try and secure some crucial championship points to try and fight back against Sean McNamara, who's teaming up with Dylan Rudd next week.
Yeah, exactly right. And we'll have a good opportunity to talk about combinations for Bathurst, perhaps at the end of this broadcast, if not first up next thing Tuesday night, or this time next week, I should say. So yeah. I'm getting the Matt Davis tongue tied.
Last time for Tuesday night racing as well.
I know, exactly. It's been a big season. No wonder we're tired. Hey, Dylan Rudd, no surprise here on top of the qualifying session in the early stages. In fact, in the closing stages, we're looming ever so large on a Tuesday night to the start of this 10th round of the season. Now, what's interesting here, as Matt Davis said, a little bit different. This circuit being shorter, it's about 900 metres shorter. The difference is there is a right-left sequence that brings you back onto the main straight instead of the left-right. So that takes you down to the Melbourne hairpin. So basically what we're looking at is the two chicanes, one that goes left, one that goes right. We take the one that goes right. It's a little bit faster. We're eliminating two legitimate overtaking opportunities, though. That's one thing to take into consideration tonight. There will be a little bit of follow the leader processional element to this, like we saw last week at Summit Point. However, again, turn one's going to be a legitimate overtaking opportunity. Probably the run down the back straight into turn 9 and 10 as well, Matt Davis. Where else, though? Because I'm looking around here and thinking it might be a little bit easier overtaking on the motorbikes than in the four-wheelers, but these guys might have to get a little bit creative and get the elbows out potentially.
Yeah, look for the exit out of turn 7 tonight, Zach, and then the drag race through 8 and then down to turn 9. So why don't we try and find out what exactly the drivers are in store for tonight with a bit of a track map and a layout for everybody to see what exactly is going to unfold tonight, and obviously that critical lap number when they have to pit to get home.
Yeah, let's crunch the numbers here for you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have a look at the championship points in just a moment. We haven't forgotten about that. 3.15 kilometres, 51 laps tonight, 160.7 the race distance. Pit lane speed, 60 kilometres an hour. Now, you might notice that varies week in, week out in the RSRA SuperSeries. That's not determined by us. That's determined by the iRacing servers themselves. 55.5 litre fuel restriction here, which means at 2.62 laps fuel burn, 2.62 litres a lap fuel burn. There are 2 pit stops coming your way tonight. There will be a splash and dash or something like in either the first or second stop, depending upon whether you want to play the reverse strategy or play the game with the boys at the front end of town. We know that Rehan Leonage has been the master of the reverse strategy in recent weeks in this championship. Now, the critical lap here is going to be about lap 30-31. There will be about 21.2 litres, or laps, I should say, to that fuel tank based on those fuel burn numbers. And therefore, you're looking at, if you go full burn, run it empty, you're looking at about lap 42 for that splash and dash to the end. But watch a few drivers mix that up a little bit. 2 sets of tyres as per usual. The set they start on, the set they'll throw on at some point, be it first or second stop. November 30 is the race date. 3:30 in the afternoon is race start. Now, of course, we're heading towards winter in the United Kingdom, so they're out of daylight saving, and the sunsets in the Northern Hemisphere a little bit earlier in the day than what they are in the Southern Hemisphere when you get to winter. So watch that. We'll have a twilight finish, no doubt. 18 degrees air temp, 18 on track. Actually, that's more than reasonable for Great Britain. Don't let me kid you about that one. 10 kilometre an hour wind speed in a westerly direction there for you. Where do things stand as far as the championship's concerned? Well, last week really tightened it up. Let's have a look at this for you, ladies and gentlemen, and remind you that Rehan Leonage does hold the championship lead by a very slender margin. It is 9 points to Sean McNamara, and then Jamie Dyke on 12.58, Dylan Rudd 11.80, and Brian Borg 1,104. 10.77 for Dean Alessi, 20 back to Craig Schultz, who has just 2 points of an advantage over David Kirby. Blake Delaney 9.98 and Jared Bailey 9.83. They're the top 10. We'll let that continue scrolling for you. Double points for the last round. Matt Davis, we've already analysed the crap out of that last week, but the fact of the matter is, you look at the top end of town, your champion is going to come from that top 5. Qualifying is going to be so important for next week, but qualifying also important for tonight. And Jamie Dyke was buried in the pack well into that session.
Yeah, Jamie Dyke really struggling tonight around Donnington. He has, I believe, made his way up the field just a little bit. I'm actually trying to search for his name right now on the board, but I think he's made his way up just a little bit, and to be able to rectify that situation, give himself a better start than what he was. He was buried all the way back down in, I believe, 22nd position. So that's not where he wants to be, considering where he's sitting in the championship. Rehan Leonage, though, we know he's a clean driver. He's not going to get the bonus 1 point tonight, which could be crucial. We know that championships have been won by 1 point in the past. And knowing the Leonage tradition, it could happen again. So that top 5 really going to be a fight for the championship, though. Bathurst, it can produce anything. You're into the wall, you're in for 20 minutes of repairs. So if 20 minutes of repairs, if that's the case, kiss your race goodbye at Bathurst, kiss the championship goodbye, and we'll just have to wait and see for what happens next week. But I can tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, the pairings next week are big.
Oh, they're next level, and we'll analyse all of that for you in our post-qualifying coverage next Tuesday night. I mean, we'll obviously inform you who's who in the zoo before we get going in qualifying, but if we do run out of time, we can come back and have a look at the pretenders and the contenders and the like in our post-qualifying wrap-up. Let's have a look at the qualifying results for tonight's round, however. Round 10, final sprint round of the year. Dylan Rudd on pole position. Well, tickle me surprised. Nearly 4 tenths clear of Rehan Leonage and only 2 hundredths of a second from Leonage back to Pereira. Brian Borg then only 3 hundredths back. So Second, third, and fourth, incredibly tight. Fifth and sixth, even tighter. Craig Schultz, Brenton Nitschke. Fords 4, 5, and 6. Only 0.06 of a second between Schultz and Nitschke. Then Jones, Kirby, Crisdale, and Morris, the top 10. 0.6 of a second separates the top 10. That is quite extraordinary. It gets better. Sean McNamara sitting there in 11th alongside Hayden Norris. Jared Bailey and Bruce Tunnock will share the 7th row. Brian Good, Matthew Scholes the 8th. Jamie Dyke, Rick Sibra the 9th. And Dean Reddit and Dean Alesti the 10th row. Matt Davis, I'll let you run through that last 6 or 7 there.
We've got David Coleman coming out of 21st and Lindsay Hobbs in 22nd. Then you got David Nash and Justin Pennefather out of row 12. Row 13, we'll see Chris Barnes and Jamie Davis. And then Simon Valla will round out the back of the field tonight with Lee Davis. Obviously, our safety car driver. Now, David Coleman obviously starting from pit lane. So, actually, I'll correct myself there. He'll be rounding out the back of the field from pit lane and starting a fair way back as well down in pit lane too. Zach Cabin, I believe he's down in about, what was it, 25th position. So, or 23rd maybe. So,
yeah, and
he's got a lot of work to do. He's got a lot of work to do tonight, along with Jamie Dyke.
Just so that everyone's clear, his grid position will be left vacant. He will start from pit lane. He won't be released from the lane until such time that all the field has got past the control line there at pit exit. So cars will be on the grid very shortly, joining us any tick of the clock. We are looking forward to what will be an enormous final sprint round of the season. Can anyone catch Dylan Rudd? That qualifying pace would suggest, Matt Davis, to me at least, that it is his race to lose tonight.
Yeah, it definitely is. He's been the top qualifier all year. He's ever since he's come into the RSRA, he's always been on the front of the qualifying timetables. Rehan Leonage pipped him a couple times, but the overall pace from Dylan Rudd is just absolutely superb. And it's up to Leonage not to let him run away after the first 5 laps. Because if that's the case, it's going to be Dylan Rudd's race all over, I think.
Exactly right. It's going to be curtains for everybody else. Now, here we go. This is the penultimate round of the season, a critical one as far as our championship contenders are concerned. And the road to Bathurst, it just keeps on creeping up on us at a tremendous rate of knots. We're looking forward to seeing how this round plays out. However, a twilight race at Donnington. The headlights will be ablaze. The lights will be out. We're off and racing. Great start. Clean getaway from Dylan Rudd. The rest of the field behind him, fighting for track position and jockeying as they make their way to the first corner. Great start from Brian Borg. Up from 4th into 2nd. He slots in behind Dylan Rudd, who was already bolted and put half a second on the pack. Leonage, Pereira, and Nitschke follow them through. Then Schultz, Jones, and Morris, I should say, making up the top 8 at this point in time. But a brilliant start by Dylan Rudd as they stretch through the back section of the circuit. Don't forget, join us at the end of the broadcast too, folks. Full broadcast details for the Goodyear Autocare Warana Bathurst 1000 coming up. This is round 10 of the Goodyear Autocare Warana SuperSeries, and it is the defending champion of our Tuesday Night Motorsport Series. Dylan Rudd leading the way in the early stages. He's on the back foot as far as the championship is concerned. You ride on board with the championship leader as they head down the hill. It's a drag race. It's a roller coaster down to the final right-left sequence of corners here. They're hard on the brakes going into the right-hander. Back left, onto the main straight. 1 down, 50 to go. That was quick.
That was very quick. And Dylan Pereira sitting in a crucial position right now for his teammate. Rehan Leonage. There's going to be some team orders. The hold back, Nitschke, Schultz, and Jones, who's going to be fighting the way through. And don't count out Benny Morris as well to make some moves. Sean McNamara, excuse me. Look at a bit of a hiccup there. Sean McNamara, we know he's going to be a big fighter coming into this. We know he needs the championship points right now, so look out for Sean McNamara throughout the race.
Indeed. Look at Rudd. 1.6 seconds up the road already. To fight for second. Have a look at this. Pereira on the inside of Borg. Leonage had already capitalised on that, so Leonage the second, Borg the third. Borg's in trouble. Borg's been absolutely swamped there. Nitschke's up to 4th, Schultz up to 5th, Jones to 6th, and Morris back now to 7th, and Borg is limping all the way down the order. 11th. 11th is where you'll find Brian Borg. What on earth has happened there? The number 017. That is an enormous loss of track position for Borg.
He got swamped. I think it's a big... Oh, that's chaos!
More trouble! Big hit!
That's
Big
big.
hit!
That's big.
That's enormous! David Nash involved, Cameron Jones involved! And I wouldn't be surprised.
Bruce Tannick, Brian Good involved as well.
Would not be surprised to see a safety car deployed here, and in the meantime, the 34 has been hit with an iRacing penalty for a jump start as well. Here's what happened. Here's how it unfolded. Cameron Jones, the first one in. Whooshka. Nowhere to go.
Craig Schultz just didn't know what to do. He thought Cameron Jones was coming back on the circuit. So
And then as
right
Jones
to go
comes
on the
back,
grass.
you can see the guys taking evasive action there, Matt.
Yep. Oh,
yep.
Just unfortunate.
Bang.
Just bang into the pit wall, and that's where it sparked. Cameron Jones, right thing. He held the brakes. He held the brakes on the edge of the surface, on the edge just a little bit. He backed on just a tiny amount. But it just, unfortunate for the Riot boys right there. They all got caught up in that. I think nearly every single one of the Riot boys got caught up in that incident. So, just unfortunate there. And I believe that might be a safety car.
No safety car at the moment. We've managed to stay caution free. Probably a good thing that incident happened on the main straight.
Yes.
Had it happened at another point of the circuit, possibly, because cars might have needed a tow and so forth. Dina Lessie was the car that got an iRacing penalty. That came from Jonathan Bain as well. He got an iRacing penalty for creeping on the start. So that was unfortunate. In the meantime, this is what happened to Brian Borg, and this is a more interesting, compelling story to follow here. He needed a good result tonight for his championship fight. Unfortunately, he's on the back foot in the early stages. Down in 11th position now. And they just went past him as though he was standing still. Now, I'm not sure where he picked up that slowdown, Matt Davis, but he's going to rue it for the rest of the night.
I think it was the entry into... Looked like the entry to 3. I think he got a little bit greedy. You saw how much track he took to beat Leonage, and I think it could potentially be a big slowdown. And they are big in the iRacing surface, up to 4 seconds sometimes. So depending on how much he copped, it could have only been maybe a 2.8 second slowdown, but 2.8 seconds at race pace, dropping back more than 2 handfuls.
The lap 5 already. There's been a lot of drama in the opening 5 minutes or so here as Dylan Rudd continues to lead Rehan Leonage, Dylan Pereira, Brenton Nitschke, Craig Schultz, Sean McNamara are the top 6 at this point in time. This is great for Rehan. The more distance he can put between Sean McNamara and himself, he's going to get an 8-point swing here in his favour. The advantage was 9 coming into the round. To take 17 into Bathurst, by no means is he comfortable. It's still a winner-takes-all scenario, Matt Davis. But it'll just be that little bit of a psychological edge. 161 laps next weekend. A lot can happen, but 17 points could be just enough to keep him on top of McNamara at the end of the day, because it's going to be one of those situations where McNamara will want to put himself in victory lane, and if he finishes there, Leonage is then going to have to finish, well, if 17's the margin, he can finish as high as probably 8th, or as low as 8th, and still secure the title. And that would depend obviously on clean races and everything else as well.
Yeah, I'd count 6th position as a lucky star there, just for the 5 points as well for a clean race.
Yep, correct.
And then also, if let's call it 5th position, if Sean McNamara and Dylan Rudd take out pole position. So I'm not sure how the points are going to work with that.
Actually,
whether great people will be able to confirm that for us, but whether if they both get pole, whether they both get the 1 point each, or
the driver that gets pole.
Driver that gets pole. So if Sean McNamara, for some reason, we know Dylan Rudd is an absolute freak behind the wheel, but if for some reason Sean McNamara...
Speaking of which, there is McNamara, Matt, on the inside of Craig Schultz.
And he's in the top 5.
And I misspoke earlier because I'm going off normal points. Of course, it's double points next weekend, so it's going to be 4 points of position. So that would mean that 5th, provided that, there's no bonus points, no clean races, etc. and so forth. So it's going to be a hell of a lot tighter than that. It's going to be almost essentially a winner-takes-all scenario next week, which is exactly what you want for the championship finale.
Oh, it's going to be absolutely breathtaking. Sorry, it's almost like going back to to when Lasses Leonardo Sport paired up and Brandon Costello and Lachlan Murphy were fighting for the championship, and it was that 1 point scenario right there, and it all came down to, I think it was a clean race bonus at the end, Zach Caven, and that's all it was. So we get a draw for the championship this year, which could be likely. It's obviously then goes on the count back, and well, gee whiz, it's going to be one hell of a show coming into next week. And don't forget, you've got the qualifying on the Tuesday, the top 10 shootout on the Saturday as well. I mean, we've got everything covered, all forms of Bathurst for the viewers at home, and we're just absolutely looking forward to it. But everything also covered at Donnington tonight, as we've already seen.
The only thing we don't have, I guess, is a 9-category support card, but less said about that, the better. Through they go. Lap 8 of 51. Dylan Rudd, Rehan Leonage, Dylan Pereira, and Brenton Nitschke and Sean McNamara are the top 5 at the moment. The reason for my laughter was the producer in my earpiece saying, "How much more work do you want me to do?" And Christmas is just around the corner. So, no, we've got every aspect of the main course covered next week, which is the RSRA Super Series Grand Finale, which doubles as the Triple Crown Grand Finale, as well as the Super 2 and DSL World in Triple Crown Finales as well. The fact of the matter is, next week you're going to see a couple of all-star lineups with Super Series competitors teaming up. You're going to see Super 2 Series teams teaming up together. You're going to see a mixed match of, one driver from Super Series, one driver from Super 2. We're going to have absolutely everything covered for you here next week. 34 cars at this point confirmed for next weekend. And whilst we don't want to take the focus away from tonight, you can understand why we're getting a little bit excited about next week. This is the one that we've been building towards all year. And unlike the real world, we haven't had to change the date of ours, so we're looking forward to next week immensely. Lap 9 of 51. And I think for anyone having a Bathurst hangover, or in the hope that Australia wrap up the first Ashes test within 4 days instead of taking it to day 5, it'll give everyone else a viewing option for next Sunday as well, which is good to see. Lap 9 of 51. It's about to be lap 10 as Dylan Rudd crosses the line, leading Rehan Leonage and Dylan Pereira. Here's our first opportunity to crank up the volume on a Tuesday night. And Dylan Rudd with a commanding lead here. He is cruising to what could potentially be a crushing victory in the RSRA Super Series for Goodyear Autocare Warana, ladies and gentlemen, on top of the timesheets by 4.3 seconds at the moment. Rehan Leonage second, Dylan Pereira third, and now car number 9 is going to get a drive-through penalty here. That's Jared Bailey for contact on the 46 of Justin Pennefather. And that's unfortunate for Jared, but do the crime, do the time, as they say. Lindsay Hobbs, David Coleman in pit lane at the moment. Dean Alessi is a lap down, Cameron Jones as well. Although that being said, I'm not seeing much by the way of a movement from Jones, so I think he might have been parked up. David Nash is still in pit lane after his incident there on lap 5 as well. But Sean McNamara, in the meantime, made his way by Brenton Nitschke, sits in 4th. Next target, Dylan Pereira, but he is 1.5 seconds down or 2.6 seconds down the road, I should say. Rehan Leonage has Dylan Pereira covered by 1.5. So, really, Matt, we expected a bit of a tighter race than this, but anyway. They're spread out nicely here. This was the move McNamara on Nitschke just quietly.
Around the outside, or up
Yeah.
the inside of the chicane, but around the outside for turn one, gets Nitschke under brakes. Nitschke just gave up the position nicely. But McNamara now hunting down Pereira. Now, this is the big thing, Zach Caban, Rehan Leonage, Dylan Pereira, both teammates. Rehan Leonage currently making vital points for that championship. He's racing clean so far by the looks of it. Doesn't look like he's got an off track. Sean McNamara looks like he's racing clean as well. No off track for him. So if Pereira can hold off McNamara for the remainder of this race, get these pit stops dialed in, get the strategy dialed in, and pit McNamara every single time and hold him at bay, this will allow Leonage to skip away just that little bit. We know Leonage is in championship damage prevention mode, and he's going to be just going for that clean race. He just wants that extra 5 points, which will make him round winner to start with, but also give him those extra points over McNamara leading into Bathurst next week, where it's all double points.
Yeah, everything on the line next week when we get to Mount Panorama. Tuesday night, 8:20 Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Saturday afternoon coverage as well, and then all day Sunday. Strap in, it's going to be an enormous week to finish an enormous season. When you think about how long race day is going to be, plus obviously the shootout, we're going to have almost 12 hours of coverage for you next week from the big decider. And when you think about it being the combination of 4 different championships with 2 Triple Crowns and 2 outright series, you can understand why there's going to be a lot of emphasis on points tables and mathematics and calculators next Tuesday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Now, lap 14 of 51 here. Dylan Rudd, Rehan Leonage, then Dylan Pereira, Sean McNamara, Brenton Nitschke, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Craig Schultz is 6th. Currently on screen here into pit lane comes Matthew Scholes, and Jared Bailey follows him through as well. Now, Bailey, I'm not sure whether that'll be to serve the penalty or to complete a pit stop. For Scholes, we believe it'll be a pit stop. He's pulled up at his box. In fact, a few guys have already jumped in here, Matt Davis. So a few guys on the reverse strategy, if you like. Hayden Norris, Jamie Dyke, Lindsay Hobbs, Brian Good, and David Coleman, just 5 of them that have gone the undercut, the early stop, the full fuel from this point to lap probably 31, and then the full fuel home from there as well. Will be interesting to see what the guys that are going to do a full green run here first up decide to do with regards to pitting with the second stint. Will they go to lap 31? Will they maybe stretch it out to 36 and make it 2 15-lap runs? Who knows? They're going to have a vast, wide open window in which they can choose to come in, top up, get to the flag.
Yeah, there is a big window. One person I'd like to see, and I always love seeing when he comes in early, Jamie Dyke. We know he's incredible with these strategies. Absolutely flawless. He's come in early, and he's managed to pick the... He's coming early, and mind you, ladies and gentlemen, when I'm talking coming in early, he's coming before everybody else. He's put himself at the back of the field, found the clean air throughout the whole entire race. He's just been able to pick that gap, and we've seen him come from much bigger fields from 34th and below right back to the top 5, ladies and gentlemen. He's absolutely superb. One person to watch tonight on the strategy. The full stint, the full green run right now, to lap 22, then pit, come in around lap 36, I'm going to say.
Yep.
And then run home from there, do the 2 15-lap stints. That would be probably the best ideal stint you can probably do for the end. The track's cold. The degradation is a little bit higher around here, especially coming through the Craner curves and the old hairpin, especially up through Starkey's Bridge. That starts to wear out the tyres a little bit there, but other than that, the tyre degradation's not too bad around here if you can look after them and keep the heat out of the tyres.
Lights already on for these guys, so visibility becoming a bit of an issue there as the natural light starts to disappear on a fine, rarely fine Tuesday in
Very rarely
Britain.
fine.
And it was interesting too, because obviously we've gone to sunset. British Times, here we go, post-race investigation for an on-track violation, bringing the series into disrepute for car 196, which is Cameron Jones. Am I right?
That is, you are right. The 196
And-
is Cameron Jones.
And he's in pit lane at the moment, out of business, out of the race. So no, that's why it's a post-race investigation, ladies and gentlemen. If we can, we'll pick the brain of race control at some point before we get off air tonight and see what that's all about. But in the meantime, here comes Simon Vella right up around the outside. And on his inside is Chris Barnes, but Vella's got him covered for the moment. Barnes will have the inside run as they get down to turn 9, but Vella's got him covered. So Vella's got that covered off, ticked and approved, and moving on through into position number 14 now. Jamie Davis next there in 13th. Now, you were mentioning Jamie Dyke, Matt Davis. I didn't get a chance to come back to that. Started in position number 17, dropped down to 21st in amongst all that garbage on the opening lap that we saw, or the second lap, whatever it was, where we had cars going left, right, and centre into the wall, into the grass, coming onto the main straight there. Has worked his way back up to 20th, but it's a long road home from here for Jamie Dyke. That said, on the reverse strategy, that'll buy him some time later in the race, provided that he makes absolute maximum of the clear track around him at the moment and the lack of traffic.
Yeah, definitely. He's good with it, though. He is good with using that clear track. He's got a bit of time up to Hayden Norris. He's got about 1.3 seconds, so a little bit of clear track there, not so much. But if he comes in, if he does another, like I said, do that 15-15 at the end. If he does the 15-15 now, which he did come in, he came in lap 14, so he will definitely come into contention if he does that short pit stop.
Copy that. Hey, we've got a little bit of fan feedback coming through, so as I just track that down so that we can address that, let's remind everybody that there's a good battle unfolding at the moment on screen here. Craig Schultz is there. Robert Crisdale is there, and David Kirby is there as well. Not much in this as the boys make their way around the back section of the circuit. Another lap in the books. This is lap 18 of 51. So keep an eye on pit lane, Matty Davis, because there will be some cars heading in that direction very shortly, I would suspect.
Very shortly. And also big news from Cameron Jones as well. From a message that's just popped up in the Discord, he is having wheel issues. So I believe after that hit into the wall, most likely, I think his wheel may have had a bit of a temperamental fit. And the only way he could do that was, or to stop it was, as he doesn't have a direct drive system, was to simply shut the PC off. So that would explain why he's out of the race at the moment, 9 laps down, and quite potentially no sector.
Copy that. Now, off track goes Rick Zebra. He's got back on. He's not lost any time in all of that, but he's obviously clipped the grass somewhere. And let's have a look at that on the NCS replay here. This will be on the run to turn 1. Yeah, he just locked it up on entry to 1, got it crossed up, and he's going to kiss the gravel on the grass on the exit.
Very good save by Rick Zebra. Extremely lucky as well. And hearing a pass on Lindsay Hobbs as well as Zach Caban. Let's see where this one is at. Brian Good coming around on the straights. So Hobbs runs wide out of the final corner, turn 10 there, ladies and gentlemen. Catches the grass just a little bit. Runs wide, and Brian Good comes around him as well. And Zach Caban, I believe there is a question from one of our viewers as well that needs to be answered.
Yeah, what happened to Brian Borg was the question, and
there we go.
It's a fair enough question because he's all the way down the order in 15th now, just coming into pit lane. Now, we suspected it was a slowdown, you and I, Matt Davis. We're not entirely sure if that was exactly the case. We're going to have to try and find that answer out from Brian Borg a little bit later on. Disappointing for him because obviously he started well up the order in position number 4, was second going through turn 1. He made a beautiful start, but then all of a sudden it went pear-shaped and you just saw cars going by him as though he was standing still. So that's why Brian's buried in the pack at the moment. He now too is in pit lane at the end of lap 19. Dylan Rudd and Sean McNamara are both in now as well as we complete lap 20 of this 51-lap race around the Donnington Park National Circuit on a Tuesday night, wherever you're tuning in on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting.
Interesting now, McNamara into the pits before Pereira. So how much of a jump is McNamara now going to get over Pereira and Leonage? Obviously, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to remember that is the fight for the championship. Right now, this is a big shuffle for the entire field. Leonage, Pereira, Nitschke, Schultz, Ben Morris, Sibra, Pennefather, Davis, Barnes, Reddit, and Bailey still yet to pit. Dylan Rudd comes out in 12th position. 2.9, 2.8 seconds behind Jared Bailey. So he's got a little bit of fresh air there, Zach Caban.
Certainly does.
But look at Jamie Dyke. Look where he is compared to Dylan Rudd right now.
He's the championship leader into the pit lane, so we'll get back to that battle that you'll talk
up.
about in just a moment. Huge lock-up, and Dylan Pereira followed him as well. We can only hope that Rehan's okay there. Otherwise, that's another one of those championship-defining sort of moments. So, Leonage, Pereira, Nitschke, Schultz, Morris, all in pit lane. Rick Sibra, the next one due. In fact, the top 11 yet to stop. Dylan Rudd out as the effective race leader at the moment, and Jamie Dyke closing in on Hayden Norris at a great rate of knots here as they head down the main straight. So we've got our eyes on Jamie Dyke as they come across the start-finish line just to see where he slots into all of this, because he's coming around the final corner now. There is Dylan Rudd going into turn one. Jamie Dyke onto the main straight. He's going to move his way up through the order just beautifully. Have a look at that. Jamie Dyke up to 6th, if you don't mind. Dylan Rudd, the next one up the road, but the gap is 11 seconds. So Pereira and Leonage have both gone for the short fuel, so expect them in early. They've come back out in 2nd and 4th, respectively. Justin Pennefather and Jared Bailey getting another lap out of things here, so they're going to get to 22. But Rehan Leonage, the effective leader on the alternate strategy. So now the onus is on Dylan Rudd to make sure he ticks every box in the next short little while, because we know that Leonage is going to be pitting a lot earlier. But in saying that, Dylan Rudd may end up potentially finding himself in traffic. And have a look at this down on the inside. Pereira on Bailey. Job done. Pereira. Beautiful.
I reckon Leonage, there you go, Bailey into the pits. I reckon Leonage and Pereira are hoping for this safety car, Zach Caban. I think if they get this safety car, the whole entire field will come in fuel. And if they get it within the next 10 laps, they're home free.
Everyone's in, and yeah, exactly. They're home free.
They're home free, and that means Leonage will be in, potentially take the lead of the race during safety car.
Yep, that's a fair assumption, actually. What's going to be interesting now is that even though, obviously Leonage, Pereira, we've spoken about them going the short fuel and then obviously running the alternate strategy. So you had a couple of ways that you could run it. You could go the short stop first or the short stop second. In which case we saw a few guys go the short stop first and run 2 full stints to the end. We saw a few guys go short stop first to run a short second stint. Now we're going to see whether we have, 5, 10, maybe 15 drivers go the long stint, the short stint. So there's 3 different strategies at play here at the moment that we can see. But one thing is clear, and that is Dylan Rudd is still going to be very hard to beat. He's only 1.6 seconds off Dylan Pereira at this point in time, and we know that Dylan Rudd will have to take less fuel at the next stop to top himself up, whereas Pereira and Leonage will be in for a full stop. Here's McNamara.
Norris
down the inside into P5 again, the 951, and every position is critical in relation to his battle with Rehan Leonage in this championship. This is enormous right here and now. We know that McNamara is going to be a tremendous chance when we get to Mount Panorama next week. Rehan Leonage, he's got an all-time legend of RSRA circles here. Teaming up with him. Looking forward to it immensely. It's going to be a big, big day for Rehan Leonage potentially next Sunday at Mount Panorama. We know that Laz and he will take the fight to Dylan and Sean every step of the way. We know that they'll throw everything at it as well. And it'll be a winner-take-all scenario. But right now, for McNamara, at least Matt Davis, it's about minimising the advantage that Leonage could potentially take out of tonight to extend that championship lead to make sure that Bathurst is the bell ringer we hope it will be.
Yeah, definitely. He is playing trying to limit the amount of points that Leonage is getting right now. Obviously, complete 2 different strategies from the 9-5 boys and the Phoenix boys right now. At Donnington tonight. And as we go lap 25 of 51, ladies and gentlemen, and it's going to start heating up any moment now. Really, it's 6 laps away from the crucial lap number to get home for all drivers. And we're going to see those guys who did come in, Leonage, Dyke, Pereira, those guys who shortstop, they're coming in on that lap to get the full stint home. The likes of Rudd and McNamara, they might be able to stretch this out to 36.
Well, now this is the other thing too, mate. Important to note. Have a look at this. Oh, geez, that was tight on the inside.
Very tight.
That was very, that was push and shove territory. In saying all of that, that's Craig Schultz on Matthew Scholes, just so everyone's aware, and Brendan Nitschke's holding onto a top 10 spot just ahead of them. So everyone's aware. Jamie Dyke is on that alternate strategy as well, but his short stop was by virtue of the fact that he was only filling the tank back up from half full to full. For Leonage and Pereira, it was essentially filling it from empty back to half full. So that's why we've got 2 different strategies at play here. Here is...
Three, really, yeah.
Well, yeah, 3, yeah, exactly. There is the championship leader on screen at the moment, holding his own. 2.4 clear of Pereira, who's 1.7 still clear of Rudd. Now, it's interesting because Rudd has not taken much out of that.
No, he has not, has he?
No.
That's actually a good point there that JP has mentioned to us as well as that came. And fresh tyres could be in the mix of this.
Yep, and who could blame them as well, because this won't necessarily be about trying to keep Dylan Rudd at bay. It'll be trying to cement their position behind Rudd ahead of Dyke, McNamara, Norris, Borg, etc. and so forth when they complete that second stop. And obviously we'll get a clear indication of where they sit in relation to the guys around them when the guys around them complete their second stop, whenever that may be. We could see pit stops anywhere between lap 30 and 41 here, ladies and gentlemen. That's the sort of fuel window we're operating with at the moment. We've got an incident here. Whoa, no, David Kirby. It's a good save, but not without loss. He's lost a couple of spots there.
Big excursion for David Kirby. Not too far off track, though, and once those cars are off field as well, ladies and gentlemen, it feels forever to get them back on the circuit, out from the marbles and the sand trap, and then especially once you're on the grass, there is no drive on these Dunlop slicks as well. So they're in for a ride for their life, should I say, if they do leave the black stuff where the line has been set to follow around. And once you're out of the marbles as well, ladies and gentlemen, trying to make an overtaking manoeuvre, especially down into turn 1 and off Starkey straight into turn 9. Get off the racing line onto the marbles, you're going to have a tough time pulling that car up.
Indeed. Here they come again onto the main straight. So this is the end for these guys. On lap 27, they're on to lap 28. 24 to go. The light's starting to become a real factor here at Donnington Park in the UK.
Going to be another night race.
Oh, I think so. Well, at least another night finish, yeah, 100%. There they go, side by side. Schultz and still Norris, isn't it? So, Scholes, I should say. So, have a look at that. That is brilliant racing. Side by side. Scholes holds the position for the moment. Schultz tucks in behind. Nitschke's managed to skip clear of those 2 for the moment. Sean McNamara all over the back of Jamie Dyke like a definitive rash as well, if you don't mind. Trying to find his way into 4th place is McNamara. Dylan Rudd still 3rd. Pereira and Leonage 2nd, 1st. For 2 teammates leading the way at the moment. Good to see a good showing from Dylan Pereira. They've been few and far between, unfortunately, for him this season. But he's ending the season on a high note, which is really good to see. Through into the main straight. Another lap in the books. Leonage, the leader. Pereira, Rudd, Dyke, McNamara. We're watching the battle, however, for position number 10. Scholes and Schultz. Whoa! It's the hip and shoulder.
McNamara's boy.
McNamara gets through on Dyke. Now, I'm keen to see a second shot of that because we only picked it up after the fact. But have a look at this. Dyke had a huge tank slapper coming out of 1 by the look of it. McNamara's nowhere near close enough. And Dyke's had a wobble.
By the looks of it.
He's had a wobble.
That corner.
And he had a second wobble. He had a second go on the exit. 3rd go. 4th go. And, that's sliding all over the place, that car, as McNamara moves into position number 4. Craig Schultz in the meantime. let's continue keeping an eye on that battle between he and Matty Scholes, because that has been immense and intense for a few laps now. They're looking good. And to be fair, Schultz has nothing to lose by just sitting in there behind Scholes at the moment. Let the next round of pit stops play out, then get the elbows out. He's close enough, though, to have a look, Matt Davis, on the run down to turn one. This is a big opportunity for him, but I think just beyond reach for the moment. So there we go. The end of lap 29. We're on to lap 30. We've got 22 to go. And yeah, Rehan, we are in for a really fast race tonight. We haven't had a safety car yet, so this could be a very rare sub 60-minute race in the RSRA Super Series. You know, we'll take that this week because we know they're going to be racing for near enough or more than 6 hours next week.
It's going to be a lot of green flag. I'm hoping for a lot of green flag run next week. We know Bathurst breeds
in the pit lane, mate. Sorry about that. Dylan Pereira.
There we go. He's in early. He's in early. So that's the window for Pereira right there. What can Leonardo? Leonardo's obviously stretching out an extra lap. Pereira in the pits now, in his pit box. And we'll see. We'll let you guys know how long he does sit stationary for. And Lenage, no doubt, will come in next lap. Bailey up the inside of Justin Pennefather. And both of them dive into the pits. So Bailey gets a crucial position over Pennefather just there as they come into the pits. Lenage on screen with you right now, ladies and gentlemen. He gets around Bruce Tannick. Put him a lap down from Right Sim Racing. He's driving around in a wounded car at the moment from that earlier incident on lap 2 or 3. After that big incident on the main straight, on the entry to main straight. And the wheel issue that I mentioned about Cameron Jones earlier, as well as that Caban, I believe that was that stemmed for his exit of the race due to a incident that it caused on him later on after that incident. Leonage in the pit stop right now. Pereira, where's he come out? He's come out after a 22-second pit stop, Zach Caban, in 15th position.
Yep.
So where's that going to put him once everyone else cycles through?
And that's the great unknown. And this is the other thing as well. 22, 23 seconds. That's about the range for a full fuel stop. We saw that from Dylan Rudd. 23.72 seconds. 23.5 for McNamara. 21.9 for Borg. They're all making their way in now. Rian Leonage, Brenton Nitschke, Robert Christel, Hayden Norris, David Coleman, Brian Good, Rick Sibber, and Lindsay Hobbs. Now, unfortunately for Rehan Leonage, this is not looking good. He's, yeah, 22 seconds in the blocks there. He's come out in 8th position, but he is ahead of Dylan Pereira. The margin is 1.8 seconds, so potentially something's happened, potentially not, because it looks as though he's managed to maintain the buffer that he had on Pereira. Dylan Rudd in the lane right now. Now we're going to get our true indication of where everyone else stacks up against this bloke. He has been the standard all throughout the course of the season. His advantage at the head of the field at the moment, enormous. And we'll wait and see as McNamara comes in as well. We'll wait and see how far he comes out in front and how far he can extend this lead across the course for remaining 18 laps, or 19 laps in this case. Schultz and Morris on their way out into turn 1. They continue on, yet to complete their second stop. There goes Rudd, out in 3rd, well ahead of Rehan Leonage. The margin is only 3.9 seconds. However, Leonage has the disadvantage of running on the older tyres, whereas Dylan Rudd's going to have a fresh batch on, so he'll be okay. Leonage... Or does he? Yeah, that's the question. We'll wait and see. But I reckon, if I'm a betting man, Leonage took first stint, fresh tyres, and Rudd did second stop. So
I'll put 50. I'll put $50 on that towards Blue Ribbon.
Yep, that's yep. we'll confirm it post race. How's that sound? And
sounds good.
Craig Schultz at the moment leads Ben Morris. The two teammates working together. How long until they decide to bite the bullet and come into pit lane? We'll find out. Onto the main straight.
Big curve.
The end of 33. They continue on to 34. So it looks like these guys are willing to lead from the front for a little while and then come in and complete their stop. They've got nothing to lose. I mean, they're only 4 seconds up the road from Dylan Rudd. We know Dylan Rudd's the effective race leader. That part is known. Pereira's still clear of Sean McNamara. So it looks as though at this point in time, Sean McNamara is racing for fourth.
Yes.
Based on the current information we have before us and available to us, Chris Barnes in pit lane now. McNamara, we think, is racing for fourth, and Leonage for second. So the turnaround's going to be an extra 4 points for Leonage, but by no means is that anything to write home about, because that's only going to make the advantage potentially 13 going into Bathurst. If they've both got a clean race, it remains 13. If one's got a clean race and one hasn't, unsafe rejoin causing contact for the 393. That's going to be a post-race penalty for causing collision with the 123. The 393 is Simon Vella. He's been in pit lane for 3 minutes now, so a post-race penalty coming his way. We've had 2 retirements thus far, namely David Nash and Cameron Jones. And I dare say Simon Vella won't be too far off joining them in those stakes, remembering 75% race distance tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is, well in excess of 35 laps, and it's just this side of 40. So let me confirm that for you now. 51 minus 25% is 38.25. So we're going to round that up to 39. 75% is 39. Vella's still got a chance. If you can get out there at the end of lap 41, 42, you can still get to 39, but we'll wait and see what's going on with the KFC entry. Shocking night for those boys. Vella and Jones both in trouble.
Yeah, unfortunate life for them. Finding themselves with repairs and down the back of the field. So not a night they want to remember being the penultimate round, but nevertheless, there is Bathurst to look forward to. And there's going to be that's still always going to be the big talking point, Zach Cave, at Bathurst. It's the final round. It's the biggest race of the year for the RSRA. 6 hours of on-track racing. Can we go sub 6 hours this year? That's going to be the key. I reckon we might.
Yeah.
Even if it's a 5.59, it's at sub 6 hours.
Yep. Yeah, we were crunching the numbers the other night because we're getting everything ready from a commentary standpoint for next week, and that's why we're probably harping on that more than we need to tonight. But the fact of the matter is 6 hours and 30 seconds was the number last year. I reckon we can easily shave 35 seconds off across 6 hours this year. Easier said than done.
It's only one safety car.
And everything else. Exactly right. And I think we had 3 or 4 last year. In the meantime, Rehan Leonage and Dylan Pereira continue on here, as do Craig Schultz and Ben Morris. Have a look at this, the 2 teammates. No holds barred here. Just getting word through our earpiece, I believe it was a case of first pit stop for Leonage and Pereira for tyres, and there goes Benny Morris through on the inside to take the lead away from Craig Schultz. So therefore, that's half of Matt Davis's contribution to Blue Ribbon confirmed.
There it is, and it is clear on the times actually. Zach Cave, and they're 105.35 last lap Leonage, 105.93 for Pereira. Dylan Rudd 104.82. So it's definitely a little bit slower, but you never know. It could be Leonage just now cruising around, knowing that he's not going to be able to get to Dylan Rudd. He's just playing it cautious, managing that gap to McNamara. And McNamara is still 8 seconds away from Dylan Pereira, so it doesn't look like that gap's closing anytime soon either. So we're just going to have to wait and see over the next 15 laps, because is it 15 or 13? 15 to go. And my eyes do serve me correct. So it's we're just going to have to wait and see what the next 15 laps brings for McNamara, if he can close that gap to Dylan Pereira, or if he's just going to sit there and hope for Pereira to, what he knows has happened to Pereira twice before, is suffer a blown engine.
Right, now, so here's 2 things too. Dylan Rudd's almost eradicated the deficit to Schultz and Morris. You can see them right there in front of you. Morris down to turn 1 as the leader, Schultz second, Rudd third. Morris and Schultz the only 2 on the circuit not to have completed their second pit stop just yet. 2, by the way. Lap 38 of 51, 14 to go. When you look at Dylan Pereira, Sean McNamara has taken 2-point-something seconds out of the deficit that he had, or the advantage that Pereira had to McNamara after that second round of pit stops. So McNamara obviously on the fresh rubber, on the wet sail coming home, but can he take another 7.5 out across the course of 14 laps? That's you're looking at just over half a second a lap that he's got to take out of Pereira if he's going to make a lunge for third in the closing stages, Matt. Easier said than done.
Oh, very well easier said than done. And it's once these tyres start to plateau, it's they're going to be on even playing fields. So it's McNamara's got to get the pedal to the metal right now and try and make up as much time as he possibly can, and try and start to fight Pereira for that effective third place position. Last step on the podium.
Here they go again. Lap 39 of 51, 13 to go. Morris and Schultz have been split by Dylan Rudd. We know that Rudd is leading this in a canter by a country mile, 7 seconds almost back to Rehan Leonage. It's just a matter of making light work of Morris now. And Dylan Rudd will have the clean track in front of him that he so desperately desires as we head towards the conclusion of, we've just passed 75% race distance, head to the conclusion of this, the penultimate round of the RSRA SuperSeries for Goodyear Autocare Warana Tuesday night motorsport on the platforms of SimShed broadcasting around Australia. There goes Rudd down the outside. Rudd takes the lead. The number one back in the top spot.
Big slide by Benny Morris.
Huge slide. Now, are they going in? No, they're not. They're going to continue on again. This is, it's suicide essentially in the championship aspect of things, because they're just bleeding championship points here. They're going to compromise their potential finishing results here if they continue pushing on, because everyone on the track is faster than them at the moment. They've managed, good on them. They've managed to get nearly 40 laps now out of a set of tyres. Great, but the presence of everyone around you, where are you going to slot back in once you come in and get your splash and dash done?
I just want to make mention as well, quickly, Zach Caban, before we do keep going on with that, Jamie Dyke inside the top 10 now after dicing with the strategy yet again. He's found himself outside of the top 10 and well outside of the top 10 as well, ladies and gentlemen. He's now inside the top 10 in 9th position. So the strategy game has worked dividends for Jamie Dyke.
Down the outside, that was a nice move, actually. Robert Crisdale being displaced, yeah. Oh, actually, Robert Crisdale's in trouble. His engine's blown. Now, will race control... They won't deploy a safety car, I'm being told, because they'll deem that he's far enough off the circuit for one, and they'll let him tow accordingly, or they'll just let him park there for the rest of the night, whichever the case may be. But unfortunately for Robert Crisdale, he's done. He's off. He's out of business. That's unfortunate for him, and that's another engine failure. But I have to say, I'm a little bit disappointed. If he parked closer to the racetrack, that would have been the yellow everyone was looking forward to, and we would have had a real ding-dong affair for the final few laps.
I bet that yellow, that safety car was wanted about 10 laps ago, I believe, a little bit earlier. So,
poor old Lee Davis. The amount of times he turns up here and only gets to drive in the warm-up. That being said, it's a testament to the driving standards of this series. Actually, the fact that he hasn't done too many miles this year, but he'll get a run or two next week, I'm sure.
Well, no wonder why he bins it, sometimes. And Benny Morris in the pits finally. What's Craig Schultz going to do? He's out for another lap. So Craig Schultz goes for the long stint. Yeah, back to Lee Davis quickly. That's probably half the reason why sometimes he does bin off track, Zach Caban, because he just doesn't have the run time in the poor safety car that he should be getting.
100%. 42 of 51 as they head down to turn one once more. So Ben Norris has rejoined in 9th in all of that. Hayden Norris in behind him.
Oh! Alien Pedophile!
And not for the first time tonight. They came together earlier, did they not?
I believe so. There was already a drive-through penalty for Jared Bailey.
That's right.
On the incident of Pedophile. So let's get a quick look at this. This was in the turn 9 and 10, ladies and gentlemen. And Pedophile...
Oh, it was brewing from
well the run. Almost 3 wide coming into here. Hard on the brakes. Pedophile well up inside the B pillar for the right-hander. Then thought he had enough room and just, by the looks of it, just turned over on Jared Bailey. And Jared Bailey had nowhere to go. So... race control going to have a good, hard look at that one. They might just deem that as a racing incident, play on.
Let's hope so. Because late race penalties are a killer. There's no doubt about that. Lap 43 of 51. We're watching the race leader, Dylan Rudd, clear by 10 seconds over Rehunt Leonage. Dylan Pereira is only 1 second behind Leonage, and he's 6.7 clear of McNamara. So McNamara does not look likely that he'll be getting any higher than fourth tonight unless something untoward was to happen to the top three ahead of him. At this point, Dylan Rudd needed to do everything he possibly could tonight to maximise his points haul in readiness for an assault on the mountain next week. Because bearing in mind, while Sean McNamara is in the box seat to win the championship if something goes wrong for Rehan Leonage, or of course if he just finishes 2 positions ahead of Leonage the way things are going, or 3, we'll do all the mathematic equations for you next week, ladies and gentlemen, as part of our big broadcast. But the fact of the matter is that Dylan Rudd still stands to score a maximum of 300 points next week as well, and that could put him inside the top 3, inside the top 2 in the championship, depending upon what happens for those around him. So a lot to look forward to, a lot to weigh up, a lot to calculate next week. 44 of 51. So Rudd, Leonage, Pereira. We've gone back to Craig Schultz all over the back of Hayden Norris at the moment. Ben Morris is just a few seconds up the road from then. Jamie Dyke back to 7th. After starting 17th, Matt Davis. That's actually not a bad effort from Jamie Dyke. And again, a guy that needed points with regards to the overall championship picture.
Yeah, he's definitely played that strategy game to a T yet again. And the man simply says to amaze me each time he does these strategy walks. And it's almost a common occurrence. I'd almost call him the strategy king at the end of this season, since he's done it a handful of times and it's paid off for him. And he obviously wouldn't be sitting where he is in the championship if it wasn't for that either. He's had an absolute stellar performance coming in the last half of the season. The consistency has paid off. Jamie Davis as well, another one to mention, up 12 positions. He's had an absolutely superb race this week.
Indeed he has. Don't forget to stick around for our full post-race show here, ladies and gentlemen. Drive-through penalty, avoidable contact, Jared Bailey. There you go. We're waiting for it. And that's another drive-through for Bailey on a costly night at the office. Now, let's say a huge thanks to everyone that's been tuning in via our respective platforms tonight. Now, for the benefit of those of you that are wanting to know with regards to our Goodyear Autocare Warana Bathurst 1000 coverage, let me lay it out for you like this. I was going to wait until the end of the night, but I don't want to leave you hanging anymore because too many people are starting to ask questions and get excited like we are. Next Tuesday night, 8:20 Australian Eastern Daylight Time, same time as usual. We will be on air for a 40-minute qualifying session, at the end of which we'll have a chat to a few of the different drivers and preview the ins and outs of what's ahead over the course of the weekend. Then we do overtime because we come back on the 11th of December. We do it from 4:30 Eastern Daylight Time through to 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time for the top 10 shootout, of course. Best hour of motorsport all year long. And then, of course, on the Sunday morning, race start will be 10:15 Australian Eastern Daylight Time. And that will be after a 9 a.m. broadcast start. So we're going to have a big lead in, then the race, then the post-race championship wrap-up and the like, and we'll be on air till about 5:30 p.m. on the Sunday afternoon. It's an enormous day next week. Now, the good thing about this is that session times for those 3 sessions, even though they'll be out of sync slightly with the real world, they will reflect the real-world schedule of this coming weekend. So the server for qualifying will be set for 4:35 Australian Eastern Daylight Time. The server for the shootout will be set for 5:05 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, and the race server itself will be set for 12:15 Australian Eastern Daylight Time. So make sure you make a note of all of that. Come and join us on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting next week as we finish off an enormous year on an enormous note. In the meantime, we're 5 laps from home here. Matt Davis, Dylan Rudd. This is almost his most dominant performance of the year, period. I mean, he has put in some master performances, but when you put 4 tenths on the back in qualifying, the writing was pretty much on the wall from the start. This hasn't been, by any stretch of the imagination, our most enthralling and captivating night at the office we've ever had, but you've got to marvel in the brilliance of Dylan Rudd as the sun really starts to set now.
Oh, it's just, he doesn't put a foot wrong. With whatever he does, he has not put a foot wrong night long. 11.6 seconds at the moment over Leonard. And mind you, Leonard just dropped some time to his teammate. Pereira right on the back of him now. 0.7 of a second away from Leonard. Obviously not going to be a big challenge there between the two teammates. We know that Leonard needs the points. But Rudd, I'll probably have to say hands down, Zach Caban, the most demanding performance thus far this season, this year almost. I believe Super 2 had a 20-second lead, but over the Super Series, I believe this is the biggest domination so far.
Absolutely. Now, here's the other thing as well. Little bit of a scoop for you. Post-race, our chief steward, Jonathan Bain, is going to come in and have a chat to us because obviously next week he's competing in the 1,000. And he's going to come up and have a quick chat to us as this is his outgoing race as far as the year is concerned as our chief steward. So looking forward to that. In the meantime, lap 48 of 51. Dylan Rudd, Rehan Leonage and Dylan Pereira, Sean McNamara and Brian Borg. So in amongst all that, Matt Davis, we haven't really followed and checked in with Brian Borg much over the course of 51 laps. But he's made his way back. He was as low as 11th there at one point, and he's just slowly but surely chipped away at it, run a little bit different strategy to those around him, and finds his way back in position at number 5 now. He's nowhere near Sean McNamara. Brenton Nitschke's nowhere near him, so he just needs to keep it on the black stuff and he'll bring it home in the top 5, and he too will be an outsider as far as championship contention is concerned when we get to Bathurst next week. What is going to be interesting, though, is the Triple Crown. So there are going to be a couple of drivers in contention for all three next week. The race, the Triple Crown, and the outright championship. Which one means the most? Obviously, it's the race. But no doubt, a couple of these guys will go to Mount Panorama with all of that at the back of their mind.
Yeah, definitely will be going into the back of the mind there. I just want to make mention of Bruce Tannick there. I don't know how he's driving with no damn headlights. Excuse the little bit of a French slip there, ladies and gentlemen, but no headlights around this time of night, ladies and gentlemen, from Bruce Tannick. That's a big feat on its own. I don't know how he's managing it. So hats off to him for still circulating with all that damage. He'd be reading the track by Brad JP Zach Caban. I think that's probably demanding. I think he's just been riding it on the ripple strips going, well, there's that ripple strip. Where's the next one? Let's try and search for that one. But no, it's Brian Borg. He's definitely held his own tonight. Don't know what happened to start with.
Well, I think the other thing too, Matt Davis. What
happened to Brian Borg? So that's, yes.
Here's the other thing too as well, mate. This is only about 4:30 p.m. server time. So that's how dark a British winter looks for you. And there's the car in question that we're talking about, Bruce Tannick.
You mean that's how dark Queensland looks, yeah?
Well, yeah, that's actually, it's not too far off an equal comparison, actually, Matt Davis. And, don't wind me up. It's too early in the night, but stick around. We've actually got a little bit more time post-race to fill tonight than usual. So whether we get an early mark or not will depend on how much you wind me up in the meantime. But in the meantime, let's go back to Brian Borg because he's about to get the white flag and bring this thing home. Another 3.15 kilometres to go. Sorry, Dylan Rudd, I should say. My apologies.
Coughed that one up.
Yeah, I did. Getting distracted by getting stitched up by you, but in the meantime, we were talking about Brian Borg, were we not? Yeah, apologies. So Dylan Rudd's getting the white flag, and he's on the way home, of course. Borg's had a win this year. Rudd's about to have another one. McNamara's had success. Leonage has had success. We've had a great variety of names at the top end of town throughout the course of this season, not just this season, but also this year. And this guy has been formidable throughout, not just last season, but also this season. Again, had it not been for his absence at the Long Beach Grand Prix round, it would have been 3 championship contenders going into next Sunday, and this guy would have been right in the thick of the pie. In the meantime, he's making his way around to at least send a message while he still can with that number 1 still on the car, and he'll look to team up with Sean McNamara next week and end the season as the number 1 for at least the team in this instance, maybe not necessarily the driver. Last turn, checkered flag, Dylan Rudd, too damn good to use a Matt Davis expression. Donnington Park in the UK, round 10 of the RSRA Super Series is his in a dominant display on Great Britain soil. And in the thick of all of that, Rehan Leonage cements second position, maintains the championship lead, and he'll take that to Mount Panorama and look to become a champion in the RSRA Super Series at 11 years old. Let that sink in for a minute. Dylan Pereira third, Sean McNamara, Brian Borg, Jamie Dyke got home for sixth in the Andy Pit, Brenton Nitschke. And then Ben Morris, Hayden Norris, and David Kirby, the top 10. Craig Schultz and Matthew Scholes gave Kirby a big hurry up all the way to the flag. But Kirby's going to be able to hold on. And then Scholes was 12. Coleman, Davis, Pennefather, Good, and then Reddit, Barnes, and Hobbs make up the top 19. Everybody else outside the lead lap or retired. So 19 home on the lead lap. Jared Bailey, Rick Sibber a lap down. Then Bruce Tunnock, Dean Alessi, and of course the retirements of Crisdale, Vella, Jones, and Nash. We're going to celebrate with Dylan Rudd right here and now. 9-5 Sim Sport in victory lane, not for the first time this season. And they have made a statement tonight, and a big one at that this guy has hit his straps at the right end of the season. The car, the driver, the circuit, everything clicked right tonight. He didn't miss a beat.
Plenty of practice at this as well, Zach Cave, and he's got it. Oh, as I said, that he mixed the grass. That's 1 point deducted there, Dylan Rudd.
Yep.
So I didn't quite. I'll say he brushed the white line. I'll
give him that.
I'll give him that one. So I'll give that point back to him. He's had lots of practice this season though, and
he's getting used to it.
You'd think you would be used to it, wouldn't you? After that many wins for the season, so it'd be good to work out once we get some definite stats for next week as well, to be able to go through the amount of wins that or the most wins that were held by a driver this season, or not this season, but this year, through the RSR of 2021, and then overall since we have been running since the nationwide tracking systems and technology systems. But unofficial results, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, Dylan Rudd, the man that's most certainly mastered the art of the post-race celebration. He won it tonight by 12.21 seconds. Just like that sink for a minute.
Roar loud in the top 10.
Yeah. So 6 and 4 Holdens and Fords, 4 in the top 4 for Holden. So it's Bathurst 2010 all over again. When they went 1, 2, 3, 4 there as well. Brian Borg, Jamie. So Leonage was second, Pereira third, McNamara fourth, 18 seconds covered the 4. Then Borg, Dyke, Nitschke, Morris, Norris, and Kirby. And again, 6 and 4 Holdens over Fords in the top 10 there. As we go over the page, we'll remind everybody that it was again 6 and 4 in favour of Holden in the second chunk of the field here. Craig Schultz, Matthew Scholes, David Coleman, Jamie Davis, Justin Pennefather, Brian Good, Dean Reddit, Chris Barnes, and Lindsay Hobbs. Jared Bailey was a lap down after 2 drive-throughs. I'm not surprised. And then over the page again from 21st back, it was 4 and 3. Rick Sibber, Bruce Tunnock, Dan Alessi. Then the retirements, Robert Crisdale, Simon Vella, Cameron Jones, and David Nash. Look at that, 9:34. So it was one of our faster races of the season. Normally
very quick race.
Absolutely, and it went green all the way, so not really a surprise. Normally we'd be still screaming our what's off right about this point, but tonight we can calm it down a little bit and get ourselves ready for next week. We'll have a look at the replay here for you. It's dark in Great Britain at this point in time, and what a race it was in the twilight there as we got ourselves through the 10th and penultimate round of the season. Just going around the grounds very quickly before we do get going, boys. Of course, the Matildas are facing the USA, the might of the USA in women's football tonight. 23 minutes to play in Newcastle, lovely part of the world, and the USA leading 1-0. So the Matildas still right in it with a chance, but everything's got to go right for them in the next 23 minutes. So I'll keep you updated on that as we get closer to full time, because we will still be on air here, because obviously we've now got a form guide somewhat forming for next week. Jonathan Bain's about to join us. We've got Matt Davis, Rehan Leonage, Jonathan, Dylan Rudd, Dylan Pereira here as well. No Sean McNamara tonight because he was 4th, but he is 2nd in the championship, and he maintains that after a good display here. Rehan Leonage, I'll come to you in just a moment. Dylan Rudd, let me bring you in at this point in time, mate. Congratulations, awesome result. another race win. And again, it just goes to show that had it not been for the absence at Long Beach, it could have been a completely different story. We could have had 3 championship contenders into the season finale next week at Mount Panorama. But that was one of those nights, mate, where every box was ticked, and it was ticked pretty early. You set yourself up beautifully with a 4/10 buffer in qualifying, and from there the writing was on the wall. You just had to hit your boxes, and you did that.
Yeah, thanks. Coming into the round, the pace looked strong in race and quali, so was pretty keen to get the round underway. But yeah, quali was solid, and the race was straightforward as well, which was good.
Indeed, it was, mate. Talk us through the strategy, because obviously we were talking about Rehan Leonage and Dilla Pereira running the shorter stint second up, and then, of course, fueling full tank for the run home early, and then taking tyres in the first stint, not the second stop. Did you do what you normally do and take tyres in the second stop there?
Yeah. So I think my old tyre pace was pretty good, because I think I was pretty much matching their pace on new tyres in this first stint or second stint. I'm not too sure which one it was.
Matt Davis just confirmed a $50 charity donation on that note, because that was the way we were leading with the strategy play. Picked it like a dirty nose, eh?
Yep.
Okay. Matt Davis is singing for his supper tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, there's $50 in a mob. Look, it's gone to a good cause. Okay, that's the main thing. It's
100%.
as much as I need that $50 right now to go racing this weekend. It's definitely going to a good cause for men's mental health, and it's going over to the to what's that? Sorry, JP. Keep your mouth. I think that might be the case.
Yeah.
I think. But no, look, it's I'm all for raising donations for charities. Okay, you know that, mate, and that's
100%.
the whole point of FU Suicide. So anything we can do, it's always good.
It certainly is. Hey, on that note, Dylan, stay there with me, mate. I want to come back and have a bit more of a chat with you in just a moment. But we've got Jonathan joining us from Race Control at this point in time. He's departing night as our chief steward, because he goes racing with the boys next week. And I hope you've been nice to everybody tonight, mate, or otherwise they might view it as an opportunity to square up.
I already reckon there's a few people that might want it, but we'll see how it goes.
Hey, just quickly, since you are here, mate, I know there's a couple of things that you want to say, and I'm going to give you the floor in just a moment. But obviously, thank you for your efforts throughout the course of the season. That's number one, because as many hands on this team make light work, and that comes from a commentary perspective to an organisational standpoint with JP behind the scenes, and of course you and all the crew in Race Control. But there were a couple of incidents tonight that were alerted to us that there would be post-race investigations, not in-race investigations. There's obviously reasons for that.
Yeah, at the start there was a yellow flag called, and a driver called in passing under yellow. Unfortunately, by the time we got to it to order a redress, there was another car involved, so we've taken the view of a post-race penalty. Points penalty would be fairer. These things don't stop on a dime, so we wanted to give a bit of leeway, but there still had to be a penalty because drivers were warned.
Absolutely. And there was also, we were alerted that there was going to be a post-race investigation for the 196 as well.
Yes, there's still a bit of looking into that. At the time, it was noted the car left the circuit in an odd fashion and escaped and then left server. So we were unsure what has happened. There has been a note put in driver's brief that there needs to be a bit more investigation, unfortunately.
All right. If you do have an answer to that before we're off air, mate, feel free to stop back in. But before that, I know you've got a couple of things that you wanted to say, and then I might ask you about the racing aspect of things next week.
Yeah, no worries. I just wanted to thank the Race Control group as a whole, especially the guys like on the Tuesdays that work with me with Tim, Mark, and Peter. It's easy to come back and do this with good people helping, and Cheryl as well, who's on head leave at the moment. But look, the guys make it easy. A lot of the races, I've enjoyed doing it as much as it can be a challenging job. Seeing a lot of the drivers improve and the racecraft and the racing respect step up through the seasons that I've been here. It's just been fantastic. And like the show yourself and Matt and JP and that put on, it just keeps going forward and forward. And, you know, as I've said to the boys, I'll still be around to help with RC next year, but I've got a few family commitments coming up that are going to take a lot more of my time. So just a bit of refocus, but I still love the group, still love the RSRA family and enjoy it. I will hopefully drive when I can, but that's a wait and see, unfortunately.
Exactly, mate. Hey, well done. Not an easy job. There have been some nights where we certainly haven't envied you in the slightest. We wouldn't have swapped positions for you for £1 million. But in saying that, and I'll speak in pounds because we're in the United Kingdom, but in saying all of that, next week, totally different kettle of fish because you get to strap the virtual helmet on and go racing around the best 6.213 kilometers in the real estate land. What are your thoughts on that? And obviously, you've got a co-driver. What's the plan of attack, and what's a pass mark for you with regards to a result?
Yeah, well, I was lucky with our team having an odd number. I've actually brought a previous RSRA driver back in.
Nice.
So I'm not sharing my driver points with anyone that matters. So that was my first part. But look, I'm being in there with the big boys is going to be challenging. But look, personally, I think Dan and I, if we could pull off top 15 to be a pass, back of the top 10, knocking on the door of 10, I'd be absolutely stoked with. And as long as I'm in front of one Tim Mulford and Tony Gaffer, I'll be a happy man.
I was going to say Matt Davison. I think you'll echo it from our end as well. JP mentioned it, but obviously he's not being heard via the audience at the moment. So all our love to Cheryl, as you said there earlier. Yes. She's been on bed rest and out of action for the last short while, but we're hoping she's back in fighting fit real soon.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to miss Cheryl, and we're going to miss Jonathan Bain as well. I'm going to miss seeing the name pop up on my screens around the track on a Wednesday night in the Super 2E series. And I mean, we've all developed such a great friendship as well off air, outside of the racing, and we always catch up and have a cold one after the race and have a good laugh. And it's always good to see Jono Bennett trying to get some practice in for Wednesday night at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night. So no, look, Jono, mate, thank you very much for giving up your time to give back to the racers in the community and give us some race control input. It's not one of the easiest jobs in the world, but mate, you've made it look easy from your point of view anyway.
Cheers for that. But I challenge anyone to have a crack at it. It is a lot of fun. It is challenging. It has its moments where, you know, like I got home from work tonight in the middle of quali, so after this I'll write the penalty sheets and then I'll go have dinner. So midnight dinners and practice is always a bit interesting. But look, there's a lot you can learn from helping behind the scenes. So I challenge anyone that's interested, have a go. If you do a couple of rounds and don't like it, fine, but don't rule it out because I wouldn't want to do that. You know, piss people off. I'm here. I've made mates from doing this somehow. People like being filtered around, but with the rule book. But it's it's a good bunch of fun and it helps. That's the biggest thing. Like when the more people we got in RC to a point, it helps the racing be better. So don't be scared to have a crack at it either.
All right, mate. Fantastic. So, hey, we'll let you continue with your post-race investigations and work there, mate, and we'll check back in with you if we can, if we need to, before the end of the broadcast. Good on you.
Cheers, guys.
Great work from Jonathan Bain, as per usual. He'll see himself out, and we'll press on here to Rehan Leonage at this point in time. And just quietly, too, ladies and gentlemen, it is a 4-point swing in favour of Leonage, so he extends that buffer out to 13 points going into next week. And the reason for that is that 0 incident races tonight with a 5-point bonus for Dean Alessi, David Coleman, Craig Schultz, Brenton Nitschke, Sean McNamara, Rehan Leonage, and Dylan Rudd as well. So 2 of the top 3 on the podium netted that tonight. McNamara will end up being third for the round because he'll leapfrog Dylan Pereira by 3 points. Based on that information that we've just been able to present to you. So for Dylan Rudd, it is a full haul of points. The 1 point for pole, the 150 for the win, the 5 for the clean race. So he's done everything he needed to do to keep himself in the hunt for a championship podium. Next week at Mount Panorama, we'll have a look at the championship points very shortly. Now, the challenge was set last week on how early we can get this post-race done. Matt Davis, any time preferences this week?
Oh, that's a challenge. I did show you up a little bit last week, Zach Caven. JP, I'm going to let you come live on air for this one, mate. I'm going to let you take control of the times on this one.
We've got our... Hello, JP.
I take control of nothing.
He's going to take control of nothing.
I'm going to say 10 past 10 the latest. Okay.
All right. Let's see if we can rip through.
25.
Let's see if we can rip through. Because to be fair, there's not a lot directly to analyse out of tonight's race. It was a fairly mundane, lackluster, processional sort of affair. However, we'll take them to appreciate the weeks like last week where we didn't have enough time to analyse everything that happened. Rehan Leonage, the championship leader, you'll remain that going into the season finale, but by gee, it's going to be tight.
Definitely is going to be very tight. But yeah, Bathurst 1000, anything can happen. It's 161 laps with no just like random breaks or anything. Mostly driver swaps, but might be doing some double stints and things. There are 161 laps of a 6.2k track. It's going to be a long one. Yeah, just stoked to have the same championship lead as my dad when he won a second championship going into the last round.
Jeez, he's pulling out the stats. I'm going to have to lift my game.
Classic Leonage right there, giving a little bit of assistance, no doubt there, Zach Haven.
Absolutely. Hey, Rehan, as far as tonight was concerned, mate, you ticked all the boxes. You started where you finished. You brought it home in one piece. You picked up the clean race bonus. You went on the alternate strategy. That did help you initially close the gap to Dylan, but obviously being on older tyres when he got the new ones on, he just cruised off into what was literally the sunset. And I'm a little bit disappointed that Sean McNamara isn't here on that note because only he would know, being the Queenslander, what an early sunset looks like. That being said, Rehan, from a race perspective, mate, must have been nice to just bring it home in one piece and set it up nicely for next week. And of course, extend the buffer by 4 points to Sean as well in the process.
Oh yeah, it's good progress tonight. We just thought we knew that Sean could have decided to go for the alternate strategy, so we just thought jump it just in case, because we know that strategy can work if you do it right. So yeah, we just changed strategy as the race went on, I guess.
I've just had a message actually come through from Sean McNamara. How good is an early sunset? And my response is 2 words, and the second one is overrated. I'll let you fill in the gap with what you think the first one might be, ladies and gentlemen. It's not clean enough for broadcast at 12 minutes to 7 Western Standard Time. And hello to those of you tuning in the West, by the way. Rehan, yeah, awesome performance tonight, mate. Did the track suit you? I mean, obviously it suited Dylan Rudd exceptionally well. He checked out, was 4 tenths clear of everybody in qualifying there, and that set him up nicely for the race. But clearly, as far as you were concerned, the focus was Sean, the focus was staying on the track, and obviously your teammate pushed you along there. What did you make of the circuit? Was it one that agreed with your driving style, or are you more looking forward to something like Bathurst next week?
I was in between. I like the chicane with the heavy braking zones, but yeah, bumpy, fun, pretty tight track. Not very many places to make a move. But yeah, you can definitely try to fake your opponents. But there are a couple places you could try to make a move, but it's ridiculously hard.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? And when it is hard like that, and it was the same last week at Summit Point, it becomes a little bit processional and follow the leader, and then the onus is on you guys to just focus on your own race, capitalize on any mistakes made by those around you, and just try and bring it home. So it is a little bit more of a frustrating sort of night at the office because that potential for an engaging battle that you're so used to, and we've seen a few of them this season, that disappears, and you're essentially running practice and qualifying numbers, aren't you?
Oh yeah, for sure. It was like after Borgie made that little bit of a mistake, we just thought just cruise, not push too hard, try to keep the clean race, just so that we could try to extend the championship like gap. But yeah, it was mostly just like just practicing, doing some more laps, trying to keep it on the track, but not like letting off too much. Still pushing as hard as we could. Yeah, definitely a fun track to drive on.
Yeah, exactly right, mate. No, you did a very nice job tonight. Let me come back to you and get some thoughts on the next week and a half in just a moment. In the meantime, Dylan Pereira, nice to see you back on the podium, mate. As we said in the broadcast there are a couple of boxes that haven't been ticked as far as this season is concerned, but you're determined to finish on a strong note, and that was evident tonight. A really nice, solid performance from you.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. Really good to chat to you. Thought it wouldn't happen this season. Just found every single way to ruin my races, and yeah, finally happy to get a good result, and more so support Rehan in his championship assault.
Talk us through the race from your perspective, mate, because obviously the start was interesting because, and this is something I haven't touched on with Rehan either, but the start was interesting. Brian Borg picked the pair of you, then he got his slow down and everyone's just gone by him as though he's standing still. And from there, it was a case of follow Rehan and you played exactly the same strategy game as he did.
Yeah, that was a bit of a gift from Brian. He had a great start, and we had a plan to not battle him too hard. The main goal was to try and stay in front of Sean, given the championship situation. And then I didn't even realize you could get a slowdown, so I wasn't sure what was happening there. Or there might have been yellow flags, but that Laz got on the radio and said, "No, he's got to slow down." So I kept driving through, and yeah, not much action, but we were still pushing the pace pretty hard. Knew that Sean was going to come pretty hard in the last stint with fresh tyres, so there's no room for error.
No, that's exactly right, mate. And in saying all of that, I was a little bit surprised, and I think Matt Davis was as well, that we didn't get a safety car there after the shenanigans at the end of lap 2. But in saying all of that, Donnington Park, the circuit, what'd you make of it? Would you have preferred the Grand Prix layout, or are you happy with the National?
Yeah, first time driving the National layout, and I quite liked it. Only because I've stuffed up the other layout many times in the first time I drove it in the Super 2 series. Really liked it. Quick lap, nice and flowing. You can't really take your focus off. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
All right, Dylan Rudd, in all of the performance we've seen from you this season, that looked like the most commanding and dominant one. You've been critical of some of the circuits we've raced on this season because they're not really suited to your style or the cars. Tonight, however, different story.
Yeah, surprisingly coming into this week, wasn't really keen for Donnington because last time we raced here I was pretty average, so I was quite surprised of my pace this week. So yeah, that ended up being okay.
Yeah, indeed. All right, boys. With no disrespect to Donnington Park, it was a little bit of a snore compared to what we've got ahead of us next week, and we've got about 12 hours of broadcast time coming your way for the Goodyear Autocare Warana Bathurst 1000. So, considering the boys are tightening the belts here a little bit, knowing that we're doing overtime next week, I don't blame them either. Let's focus on next week and focus on the entire process, because for those of you at home, join us Tuesday night, 8:20 Australian Eastern Daylight Time, a 40-minute qualifying session getting underway at 25 to 9. We'll take you through that commercial free, and then, of course, we'll analyse the session and look ahead to some of the talking points that will feature with regards to the shootout and the race and the different strategies and a few other things, and the form guide, essentially. Dean Reddit's going to join us for that as well. Saturday afternoon from 4:30 till 6 Australian Eastern Daylight Time, top 10 shootout territory. if you don't mind. And that is going to be a heck of a lot of fun from Mount Panorama, as everyone that has earned the right to have the best 6.213 kilometers of motor racing real estate anywhere in the land to themselves for that 2 minutes and 5 seconds goes about trying to improve or maintain their starting position for Sunday's race. And then, of course, on Sunday, we're with you for a full hour build up from 9 to 10 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. And then, of course, the race will be live and uninterrupted. We'll crank up the volume a couple of times so that we can catch our breath along the way, but we'll be going for about 6 hours there with the 161 laps. And then, of course, the full post-race show as well, in which we'll wrap up the entire season. And, of course, the 4 championships that are on the line next week. Dylan Rudd, you're out of contention for the Triple Crown. You can still probably secure a podium as far as the outright championship, though, is concerned. Because, of course, Long Beach was the opening leg of the Triple Crown, just to fill in the dots there for everyone that might be asking questions. But next week, you've got a pretty big role to play with Sean McNamara. How much preparation goes into Bathurst, and as far as qualifying, shootout, and then, of course, the race is concerned? Have you guys had any discussions with regards to what your strategy is if you make the shootout, when you make the shootout, as to who will do the hot lap?
No, we haven't done any Bathurst prep yet, so we'll start that this week sometime, or maybe early next week. But yeah, no, we haven't discussed any of that, so have to get onto it.
Well, absolutely. Time is running out. I only looked at it today, Matt Davis, and I thought, oh, God, we're only a week away, and I feel as though I'm so underprepared. But I'm looking forward to next week regardless. That being said, Dylan, obviously it'd be a lovely thing for you to team up with Sean to secure it, to help him secure a championship. But at the same time, you'd have to be a little bit disappointed that you're not going to take the number 1 with you out of this season, just as you did last season.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame. That's what happens. Life gets in the way, so that is what it is, really. Not much I can do about it.
How's the rest of the 9-5 stable looking? If you guys don't bring it home and something was to go wrong next Sunday, who else in that stable should we be keeping an eye on across the course of 161 laps, mate?
I'm not too sure. We have another car running, but I'm not too sure who's in that car. But hopefully they can sneak inside. Yeah, Mitch Campbell and Science. Hopefully they can sneak inside the top 10 for a result. That would be good for them. So yeah.
And obviously, 6 hours is a long way. Rehan's already suggested that there might be a couple of double stints for him and Laz in there along the way. What about you guys? So I assume that you'll just roll with the punches and you can adapt to the strategy as you go?
Yeah, we'll have a strategy going into the race of what stints we're going to do. So yeah.
All right, mate. Looking forward to seeing you in action next week. Stick around, though, because you haven't thanked your sponsors yet, and we've got championship points to get to. I just want to nip Bathurst in the bud before we get out of here. Rehan Leonage, you've got the all-star card that's been drawn, and you're bringing the great man Laz back in for next week. It must be nice for you, a nice little thrill to share that experience with your dad.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's I'm glad to get him back on the sim. Do Bathurst 1000 with him together. Father son. I reckon it'll be a good race.
How much time has he had in the sim rig in readiness for this, or is he preparation about to start?
Can't really share that.
Will he even know what a sim rig is?
Now, in saying all of that, I like the secrecy of Rehan. I really do. In saying all of that, I believe that Black Friday was very kind to you, Rehan, because your sim rig's getting a little bit of a setup adjustment and upgrade for next season by all reports.
Yep.
That was a cheeky little yep
That
as well
was
there,
very
Zach Cayman. I
cheeky,
think
actually.
he's pretty chuffed
Yeah.
about next season. So
Yes, no, that's exactly right. Hey, yeah, in saying all of that, Rehan, are the nerves starting to kick in that you're leading this championship? You're going to the final step, everything's on the line, and you know that Sean and a couple of others are there ready to breathe down your neck if something was to go wrong?
Not really. I'm just trying to keep it cool. But yeah, it's just mostly thinking ahead and not what's behind. Of course, while I'm doing these laps around in the race, I'm obviously thinking about championship, but I'm not Like, I'm not really thinking too deep into it. I'm just trying to finish this race, and then focus on the next one.
I think the other thing as well. Well, there's two things here. One, imagine having all the nerves and energy and excitement and butterflies about Bathurst running through you when you've got to try and focus on school for 5 days in the lead up as well. I don't envy in the slightest there on that, mate. But in saying that as well, one factor we haven't talked about as yet is the wild card, obviously, of championship regular Rainer Costello, and he's defending Bathurst 1000 co-driver um, in Lachlan Murphy. They're not considered wild cards in the slightest because they are a legitimate entry in this field, but they are a wild card in the sense that they could throw a cat amongst the pigeons because they can throw caution to the wind because they haven't got a championship and they haven't got a triple crown to think about. They can go for it. Any idea how you guys might combat that, and anyone else that's in a similar position where they can just run the gauntlet because they haven't got as much to think about as what you and Sean do next Sunday?
We're just trying to, keep it, like, think about the clean races as well, I guess.
And that's going to be easier said than done across 161 laps. Dylan, you were going to chime in there. Go for it, buddy.
Oh, I didn't know if that question was to me or Rihan. Sorry.
No. But I want your thoughts on it as well.
Directed that part of Dylan right as well, isn't it, Zake? Because
Yeah,
he is
exactly.
teaming up with McNamara.
Exactly. So it's something you guys have got to consider as well. There are going to be a couple of other hot shots that you're going to have to keep your eye on.
Yeah, there is, but I think for Sean to win a championship, I think we're going to have to go for the win. Because Rihan's going to be in the top 5, no doubt. Same with a couple other guys, so we're going to have to be gunning for the win, I think.
It is Bathurst though as well, Dylan Rudd. So it's anything can happen. I mean, it's you could anyone can come across at the top. Then anyone can come across come out of the cutting and not make it all the way around. So it's and then you got the inevitable chase as well. You got 300k an hour side by side leading down into the chase. It's it's not the greatest of points to go side by side with a V8 supercar when they handle like a bus. So I mean, Zach Caban, anything can happen next week. Safety cars obviously breed safety cars at Bathurst.
Exactly.
We know that. So it's I think it's going to be the biggest nail biter. I think.
It's going to be absolutely fantastic. And the other point as well is I want to get Dylan Pereira's thoughts on this as well, because the championship's out the window, but you've got the pace, you've got the car to win Bathurst, mate. Tell us a little bit about the driver pairing in your car and what the plan of attack is, mate.
Yep, so I'm pairing up with Timmy Melford. He's from the Super 2, so I'll probably try and do qualifying and hopefully try and get the car in the top 10 and try and support Rehan as much as possible. I don't have a lot of experience in Enduros or Bathurst Enduros, so it'll be a bit of a new experience for me, but yeah, keen to give it a crack and try and support Rehan the best I can.
I'm running out of time here, Matt Davis, but
I'm going to chime in very, very quickly to Dylan Pereira's partner. He's probably got one of the best defenders amongst both series as well in his crew there. So I think, going to be one to look out for Timmy Mulford when he's in the car, because he's extremely hard to pass, and we know Bathurst is a lot of big opportunities to overtake, but I think Timmy Mulford's going to make them very, very hard.
And the other thing as well, Matt, is that I don't know how much of an emphasis these guys are going to place on qualifying. We always place an emphasis on qualifying as commentators. But for 6 hours, they can find their way through the field if something was to go awry in qualifying. And last year, no one in the end was able to place any emphasis on qualifying whatsoever because of the iRacing server delivering an absolute dead set cock up and throwing the spanner in the works. So if it were you, how much of an emphasis would you place on Tuesday and Saturday before we get to Sunday?
Oh, well, how much? That's a big question. I mean, if you can place yourself inside the top 10, you've got yourself a good chance. But I mean, anything can go wrong. You really, we got the likes of Laz and Rehan. Then you've got the defending champions of Rayner and Lachlan Murphy. You've got the speed of Rudd and McNamara. I mean, those two are going to be an absolute formidable force to reckon with. I'm going to say inside the top 10 would give you a good stab. Yeah. Top 5 could possibly cement you a win, I reckon.
And it's all about how you play your strategy and how you take
And that's
advantage to capitalize on safety cars
exactly
and
right.
all that sort of stuff as well. We're going to analyze the absolute crap out of that next week and looking forward to it immensely. If we've got the championship points ready, we'll get them up and give you an indication of who's who in the zoo for next week, ladies and gentlemen, after what was the 10th and penultimate round of the season. 39th outing of Tuesday Night Motorsport for the year, the big one yet to come. 1470. It's a 13-point advantage for Rehan Leonage to Sean McNamara, then Jamie Dyke, 1398. Then Dylan Rudd, 1336. Brian Borg, 1246. Craig Schultz, 1192. Dean Alessi, 1188. David Kirby, 1187. They're all in contention. The top 8, all mathematically in contention. Seemingly a long shot, let's be perfectly honest, but they are all in contention for next week. Don't rule out Brian Borg throwing a cat amongst the pigeons as well. He'd be disappointed with how tonight started, but he would be no doubt happy with how he was able to fight his way back through on a track that all the boys have highlighted was difficult for overtaking. He got back to P5 in all of that. We'll let the points roll through there. Rehan, I'm going to start with you, and then I'll make my... Actually, no, sorry. I'm going to start with Dylan. Let's start with Dylan and make our way through here. Pereira, this is third, second, first, boys. Sorry, I needed to specify then because we've got 2 Dylans in the room for the first time in a while. Dylan, you've obviously got some people to thank on your return to the podium.
Yeah, firstly, I'd like to thank SimShed Broadcasting, Race Control, the admin team behind the scenes, the commentary team as well, and our team sponsors, Melbourne Hydrographics Depot, Track Racer, SimCore, RSW Graphics, RMX Heatherton, and LAL Photography.
All right, mate. Well done. Congratulations. Good luck next week with Timmy Mulford. Hopefully we're having a chat to you either after quali or during the shootout there as well. We'll get to all the broadcast details for you in just a moment. Rehan Leonage, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Melbourne Hydrographics Depot, Track Racer, SimCore, RMX Heatherton, and LAL Photography. I would also like to thank you guys up here in the commentary booth, JP for running the series, Race Control and the admin team for, enforcing rules and things. And I'd like to thank my friends and family for watching and my grandparents and hoping for my nan and pop to get a speedy recovery.
And we're wishing you the very best of luck for next week as well, my friend. Looking forward to seeing you finish off what has been an enormous season. And before I go to Dylan Rudd, Matt Davis, I think either way you look at it, you look at Rehan Leonage's season, no matter how it finishes next week, and you've just got to tip your hat because it is astonishing what this young bloke has been able to achieve.
11 years of age, Zach Caven. Could you believe that the youngest driver that came onto the scene in Super 2 at the start of the year, and then just from there on just cemented his place, and we knew that he was going to be quick, and then obviously had the coaching from Laz and everything like that, just coming into the Super Series, and just hasn't been dominating every race, but he's been consistent. He's been there. He's got the bonus points that he's needed, and those little wins to help him get to where he is. And if it wasn't for Dylan Rudd's unfortunate luck, should I say, at Long Beach, it could be the championship could be looking a complete different way. So, but for an 11-year-old to take out a championship in the Super Series, going against guys that are 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 times his age, that's a big effort.
Indeed it is. Dylan Rudd, one last time as far as our sprint rounds are concerned. You can take centre stage and thank whoever you want.
I also like to thank all the guys at 95 Sim Sport, our sponsors, SRT Australia, Racecraft Simulations, Bauer Media, Racing Ears, Custom Ear Protection, 80 3D printing services, Cutting Edge Tracks, and RSW Graphics, and all the race control guys, JP, and all you guys in the country.
I lost out on the 10 past 10 factor, so it'll probably be quarter past, but I'll take that as a win considering it's normally half past. Hey, on that note, Dylan Rudd, just a quick comment from you on the tyre wear tonight, mate. That's one thing I haven't touched on yet, and it's probably one thing that we always should and do touch on.
My tyre wear is very, very good. So yeah, back end of the second stint, tyres was starting to get a little bit hard to drive, but car was still very strong and easy to drive.
Reharness someone that went the opposite way and took the new rubber first stop. How was it for you, mate?
Our tire wear was not too bad. It was actually really good. Like all week, we were just we were noticing that tire wear wasn't really that much, especially with this being a very cool track. So yeah, tire wear was pretty good. Still could have been doing maybe lower 105s towards the end, but just had to keep the clean race.
Matt Davis, just quickly from you, I think from what we've established there, from what we've heard there, we can establish that 20 laps was okay in terms of the tyres weren't too bad. Even 30 laps was doable. But then when you look at 41 and 42 for Ben Morris and Craig Schultz, that might have just been a bridge too far.
Yeah, I think it was a bridge too far for them. It was you could really start to see the tyres hurting for those guys, and it's one to keep the tyres clean and cool, but there's another thing to run them too long past their stints and start to bleed a lot of time. That's what they ended up doing in the stint. And they didn't pay too badly at the end, but nevertheless they did bleed a lot of time. Maybe could have had 1 or 2 positions up on the rest of the field.
Excellent stuff. Now, on the subject of paying the bills, as the boys have just done and given their sponsors a nod, we should probably thank our broadcast partners and sponsors as well, including the great people at Goodyear Autocare Warana, as well as DSL Welding, Dragon RC, Blue Stampede Labour Hire, and SGK Gaming and Track Cams for Gourmet. Don't forget, Goodyear Autocare Warana, naming right sponsor of everything we do next week, so let's give them another plug while we can. 443 deal, the 443 deal, of course, on selected Goodyear tyres. Buy 3, get 1 free on selected Goodyear passenger and 4x4 tyres. Next week, the final leg of the Goodyear Autocare Warana SuperSeries combined with the DSL Welding Super 2E Series, combined with the Dragon RC Triple Crown. Just let all that sink in for a moment. There's essentially where we're going. Now, what's not mentioned there is the shootout, but I'll get to that in a moment. 11th of... We'll get to that in a sec, but that is the calendar. That is the last stop next week. 161 laps around Mount Panorama for the Goodyear Autocare Warana Bathurst 1000. But tomorrow night, Matt Davis, before we go, the DSL Welding Super 2E Series, the final super sprint of the season, which will hopefully throw up a little bit more drama than tonight and a little bit more action and keep you on your toes. But this will no doubt be the last step in terms of determining the form guide that we write for next week.
Yeah, look, I'm looking forward to the final Wednesday night of the year. It's been an extremely long year in the broadcast booth alongside yourself and Chris Kisby, the Spirit of Tasmania, and also my new full-time co-commentator Dean Reddit, who's cemented himself really, really well on Wednesday nights, and a man that came in all nerves and said, "Oh, I don't think I've got the voice for Wednesday nights being a co-commentator." He's that's above and beyond what I expected, and a great friendship has really formed with him inside the commentary booth and outside of the commentary booth as well. So it's been a pleasure having Dean Reddit alongside me. So one last time tomorrow night from 8:20 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, ladies and gentlemen. Dean Reddit and myself, Matt Davis, are going to be going live for the DSL Welding Services Super 2E Series, live from Donnington for the final Super Sprint round of the year for us. No reverse grid racing, which is good. It's all out sprint where they finish in the first race. They will start in the second race, and to top things off, there's a compulsory pit stop in the second race to Zach Caven, and not to mention that pit stop will not have any tyres available to them. So just to throw a cat amongst the pigeons and mix it up in the bag a little bit. It's going to be all interesting for the final night for the Super 2E Series, and then obviously the drivers will step away from that and put all eyes forward to what's going to go down on Tuesday night.
Indeed. Now, important to note, the format you got tomorrow night, exactly the same we saw for the main series at Road America a couple of weeks ago. Let's have a look ahead on the platforms of SimShed Broadcasting, because the best is yet to come at the end of an enormous season. As I said, this is week 39, if you don't mind. The RSRA Super 2E Series, Mount Panorama next week. We'll get to that in a moment. But the Super 2E Series firstly tomorrow night from Donnington Park, 8:20 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Then our 3-day coverage, 1 night, 2 days, take your pick, is going to be enormous next week. Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday, the Goodyear Autocare Warana Bathurst 1000. All starts with qualifying Tuesday night, 8:20 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Then continues Saturday in the special time of 4:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, and that will be for the top 10 shootout. And then on race day Sunday, 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, all the way through till about 5:30 in the afternoon, 2:30 Western Time. Of course, early start for the Westerners at 6 a.m. Over there on the other side of the continent, and that'll, of course, be one that we're looking forward to. So 3 days of coverage for our 40th and final week of supercar racing for this season in the RSRA Super Series, the Goodyear Autocare Warana grand finale, the Goodyear Autocare Warana 1000. Mount Panorama playing host to 3 days of coverage, about 12 hours in total. Qualifying Tuesday night, race Sunday, in between on Saturday, the top 10 shootout. I cannot wait for that. At this point in time, though, we're going to wrap things up. I'm not going to give Matt Davis the arduous task of trying to pick a winner just yet. We'll save that for after the shootout next Saturday. But in the meantime, on behalf of him and the rest of the crew, thanks for your company tonight. A tame affair at Donnington Park. It had its moments, had a couple of hits and nudges here and there. That's supercar racing for you at the best of times. But nonetheless, we've set ourselves up nicely for an awesome grand finale next week from the Mount Panorama Circuit, the Goodyear Autocare Warana 1000. Good luck to all our mates competing in the real world thing this week across the main game and the supports as well. And good luck to Matt Davis as well, competing in some speedway stuff on Saturday night. I'm going to let him tell you more about that tomorrow night in the DSL Welding Super 2E Series broadcast. Don't forget, of course, last Wednesday night motorsport of the year tomorrow night from 8:20 with he and Dean Reddit. We look forward to your company again next Tuesday, the start of the biggest week of our year, the Goodyear Autocare Warana 1000. From all of us here from Donnington Park, Dylan Rudd gets the job done. Rehan Leonard continues to lead the championship all the way to the checkered flag of the regular portion of the season. Double points on the line, the grand finale next week. Can the 11-year-old secure the title with victory on the biggest stage? We'll find out in 12 days' time. Until then, on behalf of JP, Matt Davis, and the crew, thanks for your company for round 10, the Donnington 160. Until we see you next week, bye for now.